Good Monday morning. My God, it's another Monday. It seems like just yesterday I was saying Monday morning. And the last day of November. I will be happy when this year's over, I think. But anyway, the 8s, 9s, and 10s represent the mutable signs of the zodiac. So swords are air, and mutable air in the zodiac is Gemini. So these are the 3 decans of Gemini, the 8, 9, and 10 of swords. And that's what we're going to be talking about this morning. So, I hope you had a good weekend. The 8 of Swords, interference. Let's take a little closer look at. This is my 1970 or 71 edition that was published by Llewellyn, I believe. Yes, this is the Llewellyn boxed edition. This is what got me into the OTO. So the planet assigned to it is Jupiter. So it's Jupiter in Gemini. 8 of Swords, interference. Jupiter in Gemini, 0 degrees to 10 degrees Gemini. May 21st through May 31st. The original title is Lord of Shortened Force. The Golden Dawn model, 4 hands appear from the clouds, each holding 2 swords, points upwards. All the points touch near the top of the card. Hands issue 2 at each bottom angle of the card. The rose is re-established in the center. The Prince scale of color for Hode is red russet. Now, just to remind you, there's 4 scales of color, major scales of color Kabbalistically: the King scale, Queen scale, Prince scale, and Princess scale. Each assigned a Yod, He, Vav, He. So when we're talking about the Sephiroth, which we are here because it's the 8, and 8 is Hode on the Tree of Life. For the wands, we use the King scale. For the cups, we use the Queen scale. For the swords, we're using the Prince scale. And starting tomorrow, when we talk about the discs, we'll be using the Princess scale. So the 4 scales of color for Jupiter, Yod He Vav He, are violet, blue, rich purple, and bright blue rayed yellow. The 4 scales for Gemini are orange, pale mauve, new yellow leather, reddish gray inclined to mauve. Remember these colors, the names of these colors are drawn from the watercolor colors that Moynier Mathers originally used. They're still manufactured and marketed under these titles. The formula that makes interference is 8 Hode of Swords, yet Zyra, plus Gemini, plus Jupiter in Gemini, equals interference. One more time to look at it. Harris outdid herself in strict adherence to the color scales of this card. One would not expect a marriage of these colors to appear in art prior to the psychedelic blacklight styles of the 1960s. The blades of the sword seem actually to glow in the dark. And see, there's all different kinds of swords. There's scimitars and yataghans. As in most of the small cards of this suit, the swords appear upon a field of stylized wings, here looking almost like pinwheels. See that? Actually, this card is not as bad as it looks or its title implies. Jupiter in Gemini indicates an element of luck in intellectual pursuits. Hode is the sphere of Mercury, who rules Gemini, as it does to the eighths of the other suits. However, Hode's imbalance and lowly position on the Tree of Life throws a wet blanket on what otherwise might have been a fortunate coupling. There is not enough mercurial energy left to put up much of a fight. And in the suit of swords, fighting is what it's all about. Crowley says, quote, "The will is constantly thwarted by accidental interferences." Now, I have to pause and digress for a moment. When it was first suggested by Miss Judith Hawkins of New Leaf Distributing, she suggested to my publisher, Weiser, that I should write this book. And it was something that I wasn't planning to do because I have no ambition. Okay, this is an ambitious project. Okay, and I'm a very lazy man. But she arranged at the Book Expo America to meet with me and my publisher, and she pitched this book without my knowledge. And Donald Weiser and Betty Lundstedt of Weiser sat and listened to her pitch, and they nodded her head and said, "Okay, Lon, go ahead and write that book explaining the Thoth Tarot." And I've learned over the years that when something like that drops in my lap, I go ahead and do it. I take the initiation, in other words, even if I know that I'm unworthy to do it. And I went back to the hotel room, and there was this just violent Chicago thunderstorm, thunder and lightning going on outside of the hotel. And I had my prototype of what would then be this Tarot Ceremonial Magic. It hadn't even been published yet. I had my prototype cards with me, and I just asked the simple question and laid the cards out on the hotel bed. And I just wanted to draw one card to tell me what this project was going to be like. And it was the Eight of Swords, interference. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is that, yes, this is a difficult card. And yes, you're probably not happy to see it when it comes up. And yes, it is probably an accurate assessment. It certainly was for me. It took well over 2 years to write this book. and it seemed like it was beset with constant, small, pains in the ass interferences. But to tell you the truth, when it was over, when it was finished, I considered this the best work I had ever done, and the best work I was ever required to do. And so I'm very proud of the project. To me, it was very successful. And so even though I got the 8 of Swords and all the pain in the asses, the different ones over the years, it still turned out great. So that being said, the 8 of Swords does not show us much patience or persistence. If its influence is to be overcome, these qualities will need to be developed and introduced into the equation. Otherwise, everything will most definitely serve to interfere. See Chapter 20 for the general divinatory meanings of this card. Sorry for the long digression there. Okay, the 9 of Swords. Mars in Gemini. Look at that. Whoa. Excuse me. 9 of Swords, cruelty. Mars in Gemini. 10 degrees to 20 degrees Gemini. That's roughly June 1st through June 10th. The original title is Lord of Despair and Cruelty. The Golden Dawn model. From out of clouds on the left and right, 4 hands appear, each holding 2 swords nearly upright, but with the points falling away from each other. From the bottom of the card, a 5th hand appears, holding a 9th sword upright in the center, as if it had struck them apart. No rose at all is shown, seemingly having been utterly destroyed. The Prince scale of color for Yesod is 9, very dark purple. The 4 scales for Mars, scarlet red, Venetian red, bright red, rayed azure or emerald. 4 scales for Gemini, orange, pale mauve, new yellow leather, reddish gray inclined to mauve. And the formula is 9 Yesod of Swords, Yetzirah, plus Mars in Gemini equals cruelty. Oh dear, no one expects the Spanish Inquisition. If you have a hangover, don't look at the 9 of Swords. You won't be able to deal with this one. Who knows what Harris was doing with the colors, but she succeeded in making them perfectly nauseating. As if to underscore the degeneration of the suit, the pinwheel wings are being washed down the wall of the background by what looks like drops of poison. Crowley actually calls them drops of poison. Let's see. The whole scene induces dizziness. I can almost taste the drops of rusty blood dripping from the swords. It's kind of a surprise to find this horrible mess in the middle pillar, Yesod. After all, the other 9s are perfectly lovely fellows. But even the balance and stability of Yesod can't come to the rescue of all action Mars, in all talk Gemini, in the lowest burned out regions of Yetzirah, the world of thought. Watch out. Crowley calls it agony of mind. The only outlet for expression for this card is just ugly meanness. There's not even enough subtlety of mind left. Crowley points out to take sadistic pleasure from its own cruelty. There is not even enough subtlety of mind to take sadistic pleasure from its own cruelty. Quote, consciousness has fallen into a realm unenlightened by reason. This is the world of the unconscious primitive instincts, of the psychopath, of the fanatic, unquote. Well, I won't make a political comment, but I will move directly into the Ten of Swords. Ruin. Now, that is the sun in Gemini. I posted a pretty big picture on my Facebook page. It'll appear right below this this video if you're playing it back. And I asked the question, can you find 10 swords in the Ten of Swords? So as I'm reading this, you might refer to that illustration that I posted. Ten of Swords, Sol in Gemini, 20 degrees to 30 degrees Gemini. June 11th through June 20th. The original title, Lord of Ruin. The Golden Dawn model, 4 hands holding 8 swords. As in the Nine of Swords, the points falling away from each other. 2 hands hold 2 swords crossed in the center, as though their junction had disunited the others. No rose, flower, or bud is shown. Prince scale for Malkuth is citron, olive, russet, and black, all with gold flecked black. The 4 scales for Sol, orange, gold yellow, rich amber, and amber rayed red. The 4 scales for Gemini again are orange, pale mauve, new yellow leather, reddish gray, inclined to mauve. The formula that makes ruin ruin, 10, Malkuth, of swords, Yetzirah, plus Sol in Gemini equals ruin. Can you find the 10 swords in the Ten of Swords? It's very difficult. Crowley tries to help us. Quote, the hilts of the swords occupy the positions of the Sephiroth, but points 1 to 5 and 7 to 9 touch and shatter the bright central sword, 6, which represents the sun, the heart, the child of Hokmah and Binah. The 10th sword is also in splinters. Unquote. Okay. There are 3 swords that form the middle pillar. the lowest having a crescent moon on the handle. The next sword is placed upon the blade of the first and has an orb as part of its handle. The blade of the second sword is placed upon the heart-shaped pommel of the central sword, whose blade is broken into 3 pieces. There's the heart-shaped pommel. That's the one that's hard to see. And there's its blade broken into 3 pieces. It's difficult to put a good spin on this card. Harris herself reports, quote, I have done the 10 of swords, and promptly Russia takes up arms, unquote. Along with the other 10s, the 10 of swords can't degenerate any lower without completely changing suits. Sol in Mercury ruled Gemini brings a complete identification with the mind and the intellect, which in this card are in the very process of being destroyed. Quote, it is the ruin of the intellect and even all mental and moral qualities. Ouch. See Chapter 20 for general divinatory meanings of this card. Well, starting tomorrow, we're going to be out of our mind. Or at least out of the world of swords and the mind. We're going to start with the 2, 3, and 4 of discs. So that's it for Monday. We hope to see you tomorrow. Have a great week, everyone. Continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.